Hello, welcome back to Firesense Gaming. My name is Ben, and today we continue on with Suzerain 2.0. So, last time out, we had our meeting with Marcel Caronti. We picked our construction company for the railway project, and we met with our foreign policy advisors. So, let's pick it up here. Looks like we've got a crap load of newspapers and, I don't know, 4 or 5 reports, something like that. Let's start with the reports. Why not? Alright. Sent to Arvery. Young Swords member claimed links to the government. The detained Young Swords member in Arvery claimed that he has connections to the local government. We have been investigating the truth of his claims, but we're not able to find any further leads for now. Investigations about this case will be continuing. Alright, in Holsword, repeal proposal for the Energy Protection Act of 1932. The Grand National Assembly of Swordland gathered yesterday for a significant session, where a proposal from Franz Richter of the People's Freedom and Justice Party, and supported by the independent MP Mansoon League, was put forth to repeal the Energy Protection Act of 1932. This act, as it currently stands, restricts foreign ownership of security-sensitive energy corporations to 20%. The proposal to repeal or modify this law has been a topic of debate in the Assembly, with proponents arguing for an open market approach and opponents advocating for the protection of Swordland's critical industries from foreign influence. If the repeal successfully garners a requisite majority in the Assembly, it will then head to the Maroon Palace for final approval. Okay, well, what are they repealing? Like, just getting rid of the act in general? I'm not sure. I guess we'll find out when it comes up. Alright, from the CSP. CSP unveils comprehensive Iotake plan for Rika's infrastructure. In a calculated effort to expand its geopolitical sway, the Kantanan Security Pact, spearheaded by Vice Secretary Chairman Tokezintli Iotake, has unveiled a colossal investment scheme aimed at revolutionizing Rika's infrastructure and education sectors. As the continent of Rika emerges as a fresh battleground in the global tug of ideologies, an increasing number of revolutions embracing millennialism and Foxlenian socialism indicate a shifting landscape. The comprehensive plan lays out investments amounting to 150 billion KS over the next 5 years, seeking to significantly boost Rika's public infrastructure. Key projects include upgrading 5,000 kilometers of rail and road networks, constructing 3 major hospitals, and establishing 200 healthcare facilities across the continent. Simultaneously, an unprecedented revamp of Rika's education sector is on the anvil, with plans to construct 150 new schools and introduce enhanced curriculum focusing on science, technology, and the arts. With this initiative, the CSP endeavors to portray Rika as a beacon of sustainable development, providing a counter-narrative to ATO's capitalist expansion and exhibiting the efficacy of the CSP's socio-political model. Interesting. Alright, CPS and LUS protests in Estord. In Estord, the Communist Party of Swordland and the Labor Union of Estord have begun to protest against Gazprom. The protest, aimed at voicing concerns over Gazprom's activities, has drawn significant attention. The CPS and LUS have united their forces, adding to the intensity of the protest. The reaction of the Narbil administration and Gazprom to these protests is being closely watched. Alright, and I think this is the last one here, back in Holsword. Grand National Assembly's Green Bill in Holsword. Grand National Assembly is preparing the Green Bill, with a focus on promoting sustainable industry practices, particularly in Groenie. Section 1 of the Act proposes stricter regulations on industrial pollution and waste disposal. It suggests hefty fines for non-compliance, with the collected revenue to be reinvested in environmental recovery projects. Cool. Oh, no, looks like there's one more. CPS and LUS picket line. The Communist Party of Swordland and the Labor Union of Swordland have set up a picket line in the city. The two organizations, after recently moving to the Gazprom HQ in the city, are actively expressing their discontent. The situation is attracting attention, with the impact on the city's daily functioning yet to be determined. The response of the local administration to this development is being keenly observed. Alright, there we go. That's the last one. Nice. Alright, let's find Holsword again, and let's take a look at these 11 newspapers. Jeez, so many. Alright, so we got 3 of them here from Holsword Post. So first up, Remus Holstrand criticizes workers' rights bill. Remus Holstrand, deputy of the National Front Party, recently voiced objections to the workers' rights bill, currently in its conceptual phase. His criticism targets the bill's 5th section, which extends the same rights to migrant or undocumented workers as the sort of citizens. This proposed legislation has sparked a debate on the rights of migrant workers and the responsibility of employers, indicating a turning point in Swordland's labor laws. Energy Protection Act repeal process begins. A significant development unfolded in the Grand National Assembly as the process to repeal the Energy Protection Act of 1932 is initiated. This act, presently restricting foreign ownership of security-sensitive energy corporations to 20%, is now under threat. Vocal advocates Friends Richter of the PFJP and USP Reformer Swing leader Albin Cloven argue that repeal could stimulate economic growth and foreign investment. However, opposition from the United Swordsman Party and National Front Party remains, protecting Sword's strategic industries from foreign control. The decision now awaits next month's crucial vote. And emergency in Anarcha, mayor announces. Troubling news coming from the mayor of Anarcha, who reported that a state of chaos exists in the city, and called an emergency directive authorizing him to use his security powers. In an announcement, Mayor Les said, "We are reporting 20 police officers heavily wounded, 2 police stations burned down, and several shot. The city is in a state of emergency, and we are trying to restore order." The local gendarmerie began assisting the mayor after the emergency request was made. The armed units are now securing critical junctions key infrastructure like power stations, hospitals, and municipality building. Local NFP leaders have announced that they will assist the local enforcement with the task of keeping the streets safe by reporting violent dissenters, a statement criticized by the local PFJP official. Coolio. Alright, Sorting today, Alfonso Foundation, a beacon of charity. Today we highlight the efforts of the Alfonso Foundation, a beacon of charity in Sortland. Founded by Evelyn Alfonso, the third president of Sortland, the foundation has taken strides towards mitigating inequality, whatever, it's fine, and addressing homelessness. Committed to long-term solutions, the foundation works tirelessly to promote fair wages, improve access to education, champion policies favoring economic balance. Evelyn Alfonso may have stepped away from politics, but his impact continues through this noble initiative. Coolio. Alright, from The Economists, calling for an open market, repealing the EPA. The hallowed halls of the Grand National Assembly of Sortland were recently alive with spirited debates concerning the Energy Protection Act of 1932. Friends Richter of the People's Freedom and Justice Party, independent MP Mansoon Leek, tabled a proposal to repeal the EPA, currently restricting foreign ownership of security-sensitive energy corporations to 20%. This is a significant move as it brings to the fore the crucial issue of market openness and foreign investment. This repeal, we believe, can catalyze economic growth and bring foreign direct investment to a market long protected from international competition. The old guard must embrace the changing global economic order or risk lagging behind. Cool. Alright, got 3 from the Lockhaven Times here. Addressing the skilled foreign worker gap. The Swedish economy faces a critical challenge, the demand-supply gap for skilled foreign workers. With increasing technological advancements, the need for specialized skills is on the rise. However, the inability to attract and retain foreign talent hinders Sortland's potential for economic growth. An inclusive approach towards immigration policy and ecosystem conducive to skilled foreign workers are essential to address this gap. And unrest continues. The unrest in the streets is continuing. The tension between different groups has led to new clashes with hundreds wounded and sometimes several dead a week. Our reporters have interviewed dozens of protest leaders from the regional capitals, revealing different demands from the people. 3 subjects stand out: freedom of expression, democratic change, economic security. On the other hand, many also went out to protest the worst living conditions under their session. Every third person our team has talked to mentioned the need for a strengthening of the political system, the needs to open up to reflect different opinions. Our eyes on the ground witnessed both peaceful and violent acts. We saw bus stations destroyed, shops burned, and people being carried to hospitals and ambulances. But there are also calm scenes where police forces allow peaceful protesters from all sides of the political spectrum to make their voice heard and disperse. Certain cities like Anarcha, Urza, and Arvory are much more damaged by the unrest. The overall momentum of the protests doesn't seem likely to stop soon. And welfare issues of Narvel. Narvel, a city that was once an important trade stop for the Market Empire, has been in a steep decline for the last decade. We've uncovered the hard truth from the residents themselves. KA-46, a shepherd living near the Coventry Mountains that did not wish to disclose his real name, has made shocking remarks about the city's and region's lack of healthcare services. He's waited almost 5 months just to get an appointment in the rural region. Another resident, a farmer IY-57, who also did not wish to disclose his name, is living near the outskirts of the Narvel. His children, AY-14 and VY-16, have to use dangerous mountain passes to walk to their school located 2 kilometers away, even in the harshest seasons. Coolio. Alright, I've got 1 from the Radical here. We need democracy. We have long demanded the expansion of civil rights with reforms to modernize our nation. When the previous government blamed the Supreme Court for not allowing the reforms, the opposition was quick to point out the flaws within the Constitution and brought focus on reforming the governmental structures to open way for further civil reforms. Now the reformers have increased in number, and with the president who's seen as a symbol of change in office, we're waiting for results. Whether it is the leader of the opposition or our current president, somebody has to break the cycle and rewrite the constitution made by Tarkin's soul, whose cult of personality shaped our current divided national spirit and must be broken. Will President Rain stand up to the establishment and listen to the people? We'll see. Alright, finally almost done here. We got two more from Geopolitico. The energy tensions escalate in Rizia. In recent development, Lez Power, the largest energy corporation, the ATO member Lesbia, announced an energy deal with Pales over the disputed sea gas fields of Boreas. Rizia, which has laid claims over these fields, is likely to see an escalation in tensions. The Alliance of Nations, through its mechanism Andor, has been closely monitoring the situation, attempting to defuse the issue diplomatically. As energy resources become a major bargaining chip, this event adds another layer of complexity to regional politics. And Sorlin condemns closure. The response to the Rumber Consulate closure in Lockhaven was quick. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs sent a strongly worded official diplomatic condemnation letter, accusing Rumberg of destabilizing Sorlin and the surrounding region. Several nations have made supporting statements for Sorlin to the Alliance of Nations. It is clear that this letter is not just directed at Rumberg, but to all surrounding countries observing the serious situation. Fantastic. Alright, now we can finally head to Whole Sword here. Let's go ahead and start with this Tourism and Cultural Preservation Act. This is brand new as far as I know. So let's see, what does this thing do? The Swordland Tourism and Cultural Preservation Act aims to amplify the cultural lure and tourism viability of Boren, Ribri, Lockhaven, Anarka, and Benfey. The Grand National Assembly is calling a collective push to establish Swordland as a global tourist destination and reduce the effects of the recession. Section 1 focuses on the cultural elevation of these cities, identifying local food, drink, music, dance, architecture, and historical sites as unique selling propositions. This cultivation of cultural tourism is positioned as a catalyst for economic invigoration. Section 2 underscores the restoration and preservation of key landmarks in Lockhaven and Anarka. Currently, it proposes a comprehensive renovation of tourist infrastructure in Benfey to enrich the visitor experience and generate steady income for local communities. Section 2, subsection 1, further commits to the safeguarding and development of the caves of Antera and Ribri, and vineyards of Bourne, recognizing their potential as tourism growth drivers. Cool. Yeah, that's definitely brand new, and I don't see any reason not to go ahead and sign that. Because, yeah, it's going to take money away, but, like I said, that should hopefully help kickstart the economy in those regions a little bit. So, yeah, I'm definitely going to sign that. Alright, let's see. So we got two economic things here. So yeah, we signed the Tourism Culture Preservation Act. And boom, there we go. Tourism industry booming nationwide. That's exactly what I was hoping for. So hopefully the next turn or two we'll see this growth line slowly start to creep up instead of that ever so slight downward slants. Alright, and we got two more newspapers. So, from the Whole Sword Post, Tourism and Culture Preservation Act signed. In a move to transform Swordland into a premier global tourist destination, President Anton Rain signed the Swordland Tourism and Cultural Preservation Act. This act aims to enrich cultural allure and tourism viability across Boren, Ribri, Lockhaven, Anarka, and Benfey. The focus is on cultural elevation, preservation of key landmarks, and commitment to enriching the visitor experience. The signature marks a significant milestone in Swordland's tourism journey as the nation harnesses its cultural wealth to tackle the recession. And from the Radical, a TCPA signed by Rain, a step towards progress. With the signing of the Swordland Tourism and Cultural Preservation Acts, the country takes a significant stride towards progress. The Act amplifies the cultural allure of Swordland and aims to position it as a global tourist destination. As the tourism industry prepares to flourish, this progressive legislation paves the way for economic recovery and cultural recognition on a global platform. Coolio. Alright. So let's head back to Whole Sword for a briefing on the results of the Reform Committee. I came a little early to the meeting room before anybody showed up. We had scheduled a meeting to discuss the progress of the Reform Committee regarding the new constitution. I took a seat on the center chair in the vacant meeting room as I waited for them to show up. Reforms are slowly becoming the most significant expectation by government. We would be changing Seoul's constitution in 29. Most people nowadays blame the constitution for the outstanding problems of the country. On the other hand, the reformists in the assembly have been getting louder about their demands. What I knew for sure was I needed to do something about this encroaching chaos before it swallowed me. Meanwhile, Lucy and Peter and Nia had been leading the committee to prepare an initial draft of the constitutional amendments. I was intrigued to hear their results. There's a knock on the door. It was Lucian.
Good afternoon, sir.
Lucian arrived exactly on the hour mark again. His punctuality could almost be described as obsessive. Yo, dude, are you, like, waiting behind the door to come in at the exact second?
I'm sorry, sir.
You seem to arrive the exact second for, like, every meeting.
Punctuality is important for me, sir. I'm just doing my job.
He took a seat on the table and took out a bunch of documents, spreading them on a long table.
We should begin the meeting as soon as Mrs. Morgan and Mr. Vice President arrive. We finally have some results from the form committee.
How's it look?
Well, the situation is quite complicated, but I'm sure we'll make it work, just like we accomplished many things before. We'll go over the details regarding the new constitution in the meeting.
A few minutes later, Peter and Nia also arrived. After a short chat, everybody sat down and took their notes. I knew it was going to be a long meeting. They had us a lot to talk about the future of this process. Let us begin to tackle the points of contention. Mr. President, our committee meetings are really fruitful, and we already started working on the constitution draft together with the reformists. They demanded a little too much, but we've had success with Friends Richter to create a realistic draft that could potentially go through the Supreme Court. Little, they demanded to rewrite the whole Constitution. Mr. Richter's deputy suggested removing the Chum's sword from the Constitution completely. I also didn't like the theatrics, but the requests were definitely not outrageous. They are just not realistic in today's political circumstances. Nonetheless, Mr. Vice President, thanks for convincing arguments. We seem to have reached common ground already.
If we can fully reach an agreement with the reformists, we will be very strongly assembled to propose a change.
Can we reach 2/3 majority in the Assembly?
If you can get Friends Richter to work with you on this, our problem will only be uniting our own party. We'll never be able to get the NFP to work with us. We need the majority of 130 seats in the Assembly to vote in our favour. With PFJP's full support of Senate votes, we will easily surpass the need 166. But it will be tough to unite the USP with all the divisive wings that are formed. You must make them follow you loyally.
I mean, we did it before for the elections. We can do it again. Well, McClavin and his reformists wouldn't be supporting you. You already weighed in heavily in the committee meetings. However, the Conservatives would be tough to break. The influence of Soul is still living strong in the party. And how many votes do they have? The Conservatives have around 40 seats. There are many underlying people, and some of your loyalists might decide to show their true faces too. So we need as many of the Conservatives to support us as we can, and there is only one person who's key to making back us. Gloria Torrey, she's well respected by the Solists. She'll be our biggest obstacle in the Assembly, and her demands will be extensive. I also have reasons to think that she might be in Orso's pocket. She'll be tough to break, but we'll need her help to get Conservative support. Fun. Alright, is it possible to pass this through the Supreme Court?
They are the biggest obstacle. Even if we pass the Assembly, the Chief Justice will do his best to block our amendments. We'll need at least 6 of the 11 judges to vote for the proposal, but Mr. Harker has enormous influence over the judges.
We should reach out to the judges and seek it. Some of them might be willing to break ranks process. All means are to be considered in order to succeed. Nia was taken back by the statement. According to the Constitution, I am a member of the Supreme Court, which means we already have one vote. 2 of the judges are friends of mine and have a similar opinion about their reforms. Consider them with me. Who else might be willing to support the reforms? I think Judge Edmonds can be persuaded, and in extension, Mr. Dalton and Mr. Merton. They weren't really blinded by the Solist ideology. Yes, those things don't seem to be working directly with Chief Justice Harker. If we can get to Isabel Edmonds, we might get 6 votes needed. That's our best bet. Well, what are the final demands?
Well, we should run down each of the main demands of the committee and get your input first. Mrs. Morgan can explain them later. We'll start with the first red line. The new constitution will fix the loopholes regarding the president's absolute veto powers.
Even though Mr. Richter put on a whole show about why veto should be completely removed, the committee has also unanimously agreed on fixing loopholes, thus limiting presidential vetoes. My suggestion is add a clause detailing the methods the Assembly may override a veto, some sort of supermajority. One person should never be able to block the rest. Yeah, I'm cool with limiting vetoes. We don't want to get rid of them. Loopholes give the president too much power, which could be misused. Well, whatever you decide, it's important to get a balanced picture. We'll be making history by changing the 29 Constitution of Slip.
The second one is about the judiciary. The new constitution will remove the Supreme Court's right to vote on legislation.
And this is yet another point that is unanimously agreed on by all parties. Turkey's sole established this rule to protect the sway of the Constitution. We all know most of the judges are still his pawns. Constitutional amendments will still be very difficult to accomplish with a reform like this, particularly because we'll keep the two-thirds vote system to propose a change. However, the judiciary will not have the final say in the amendments. I mean, that's sort of what I wanted to do. Yes, this will ensure there won't be another politically motivated Supreme Court. Apart from these two critical points, they have other major demands. When they once reformed the appointment procedures of ministers, Mr. Richter clarified that the Assembly should have a say in the formation of the Council of Ministers. That is something the majority of our party also supports. Well, Mr. Richter also talked about abolishing the member of honor rights of Turkey and Seoul that gives him absolute immunity and makes him a permanent member of the Assembly. Well, that one is a controversial one. I thought ESP would like that.
Immunity of the justices, impeachment of the president, limiting the power of presidential decrees. All this came up during the committee meetings.
Yes, reformists expect big reforms, while our faction of the ESP are not very keen to push changes that are too great. I'd say keeping everything in the middle ground is a safe bet. No need to agitate anyone too much. I'm just going to kind of hedge my bets and play it in the middle for the moment. They have valid concerns that we need to look at. I'll keep working with them, keep you updated, Mr. President. Well, regardless of what Mr. Rain decides, we'll need to continue to work together to push this agenda.
Now we have a better picture of your intentions, sir. I'll start reaching out to my contacts to make a draft that works for us.
I'll present your input to the committee in a few months. You'll have the draft on your desk to make the final changes yourself.
I think this is yet another fruitful meeting, sir.
Hell yeah. Together we'll democratize Swordland. And you have my full support, Mr. President. That's true, of course.
Yes, sir. Thank you for your time. I think this is where we'll call it, sir. Have a good day.
They left the room. Fantastic. Look at that. A whole bunch more things. Let's go through the newspapers this time first. Why not? We got 4 of them. It looks like just one each from a couple papers. That makes this easier. Alright, from the Whole Sword Post, Minister Manger's Rural Development Vision. Minister of Rural Development Gus Manger recently unveiled an ambitious investment plan concept aimed at revitalizing Swordland's rural economies and ensuring the nation's food sustainability. Dubbed the Gruny Rural Development Investment, the plan envisions judicious resource allocation to invigorate the agricultural communities, strengthen food security, and bolster the regional economy of Gruny. This multifaceted strategy is indicative of a broader shift towards rural development, emphasizing sustainable agriculture and regional prosperity. Fantastic. Alright, from The Economists, cooperation with Rumburg, an economic imperative. Amidst ongoing geopolitical uncertainties, there's an economic imperative that we can't ignore. The potential of our northern neighbor Rumburg. Known for its large energy economy and access to 2 leading energy corporations, Rizia's Rizian Oil and Gas Corporation and Royal Emerald Energy, ripe for collaboration. These energy giants represent not just the possibility of wealth generation, but also a means of diplomatic softening, aligning mutual interests to avoid future conflicts. By welcoming partnerships, we ensure that globalization serves as a bridge, not a barrier. Interesting. Alright, from the Radical, job freeze sparks fears for Gaslam's financial stability. Unsettling rumors are spreading about Gaslam, one of Swordland's largest corporations, as the company puts a halt on hiring. This unprecedented move, coupled with a lack of usual job openings, has sparked concerns about the company's fiscal stability. Thousands of blue-collar workers across Narbel and Lockhaven depend on Gaslam for employment, and the rumors cast an ominous shadow over their livelihoods. And from Geopolitico, Ayotake Plan, a global perspective. The CSP's Ayotake Plan, an ambitious investment scheme designed to revolutionize Rica's infrastructure and education sectors, has received a mixed response from around the world. Western Maricopa and northern China display skepticism, but concerns rooted in geopolitical maneuvering and ideological clashes. In contrast, Rica's welcomed the plan warmly, hopeful for the transformation it promises. Caution has been advised by Unraka and Yarkachalas, who fear a heating up of superpower rivalries. While the plan demonstrates the CSP's commitment to sustainable development, its reception underscores the complexity of international politics. Cool. Alright, looks like we got a handful of reports here. Let's take a look, starting in Morbell, nature preservation protests. The Nature Preservation Foundation is protesting against the remaining coal industry, a significant contributor to source energy. The group is voicing concerns about the environmental impact of the industry. The protest is gaining momentum, drawing attention to the need for sustainable energy alternatives. The future of coal industry operations in Morbel is uncertain. I don't know. I get that being a problem as far as just all these people losing their jobs, but, yeah. That environmental impact is definitely nothing to scoff at. Alright. Senator Conriat, promising industrial potential. The mayor of Conriat, Chris Shaw, reports that the decision to start the construction of the L1 high-speed railway project caused industrial investors all over the country to invest money in regions near the city. The mayor is hopeful that the completion of the project will result in substantial economic growth in Conriat. Coolio. Down to Holsword, L1 construction plans started by SSC. The Sorted State Corporation has reported that preparatory work for the L1 railway has already started, including clearing land and transporting equipment. Construction of the railway will be starting in the next few months from Holsword. And from Lenkirk, incident at President Sol's mansion on Duru Island. A private boat nearing Tarkin Sol's mansion on Duru Island prompted the Coast Guard to fire warning shots. Despite the initial alarm, former President Tarkin Sol allowed the boat to approach for a brief conversation. The occurrence has raised questions about the security protocols near the obscure mansion. Details of the conversation remain undisclosed. Fantastic. Alright, what's going on in Holsword here? Meeting with Chief Justice Orso Hawker. This should be fun. The administration has been working day and night on the overwhelming amount of issues that are facing the country. The department sent several documents which required my signature so that they could start working on the new decisions that were taken. After I signed dozens of them, I closed my eyes to relax for a moment. Another long day. Even though I really wished to leave the palace for the day, Lucien earlier told me that the Chief Justice wanted to speak to me. We planned to meet in my office in 30 minutes. I waited for him, wondering what subjects he would raise. I stretched out my arms and looked out the window. Thousands of shimmering lights in Holsword skyline were mesmerizing. Suddenly, I heard a knock on the door. It was Lucien.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Lucien.
I'm sorry that I couldn't explain the situation to you in detail earlier, sir. When the Chief Justice insisted on seeing this evening, I do not know what he has to say, but it will probably be about the new Constitution. He will be coming shortly with Judge Mr. Garachi to the meeting. We shouldn't take them lightly.
I think he's here to test the waters.
I agree. They'll probably try to get you on their side. We should...
There were 3 knocks at the door. Lucien checked his watch. He looked rather worried. Olivia opened the doors. Chief Justice Orso Hawker and Judge Haran Garachi entered the room.
Good evening, Mr. President. It's great to see you.
Evening. Good to see you, gentlemen.
Good to see you indeed.
Orso gestures the sofa in the office.
May I?
Yes, let's have a seat, gentlemen. We all took our seats on 2 opposite sofas and made ourselves comfortable.
How were your first couple of months, Mr. President? I hope you're faring well.
Thank you. It's been very busy, but I'm doing good.
It will only get busier, yet I think you're doing a good job so far. Considering all that's happening around us with the shootings near the palace, the soldiers on our borders, he let out a deep sigh. It is a troubling time.
We appreciate your concerns.
So, you probably know why we're here.
No, please enlighten us, Mr. Hawker.
We know you're working on a new constitution. The Supreme Court does not approve of this.
With all due respect, the Constitution needs to be updated, sir. I'm sure you're well aware of the public demand and our circumstances.
Is that so? I see that you are the one who's not aware of our actual circumstances. Here you want to make a weak constitution in the midst of problems both inside and outside. Even if your proposal passes the Assembly, I'll make sure it will not pass the Supreme Court, so that much is clear.
You haven't seen the proposal yet, Mr. Hawker. Isn't it too soon to be against it?
Do you think I live under a rock, Mr. President? I know what goes on. Yet you, Mr. President, seem to be only partially informed about the current situation. Please let us explain the reasons of our stance.
Oh, please explain.
We have protected the Constitution because it works, Mr. President. It is efficient and it gives you the authority to lead the nation with swift decisions. Soldan has more important problems and threats we should face right now instead of nitpicking about some paragraphs of the Constitution. We have a potential war within our borders.
Orso signaled Heron with his hand to let him speak instead.
Mr. President, I know that you're a busy man, so I'll make this quick. We all know that Solar Security Forces found stashes of Rumbergian weaponry in the hideouts of Bluish separatists. KA-74s are roaming inside Soldan at this moment. As much as Rumberg poses a direct threat, now it's clear that they are also intervening in our country and weaponizing our minorities against us. It's not unprecedented to think that the Baloods will start the terror again with their new toys. Not to mention the fights that broke out between the left and right wing after shooting Madame Circus. Communists are rising with the support of United Cantona, and the chaos is imminent for Soldan. And sadly, we don't see the administration taking the necessary precautions. You said you would not focus on the military during a term. Under current circumstances, that cannot be tolerated at any cost.
We are taking the necessary steps. No need to worry.
We hope that our police forces and our military is adequately funded during these times of conflict. But regardless of that, are you also aware that the armed Bluish separatists have direct connections to the Workers' Party of Bludia?
The Workers' Party is a democratic party, unlike the militias. They're not the same.
Yeah, they may claim to have no ties to the separatists, but most of their members used to be part of them before they formed the Workers' Party of Bludia.
How about the name, Mr. President? It is not the Workers' Party of Soldan, is it? As far as I'm aware, there's no nation called Bludia around here.
What is this all about? The only reason they're not in the Assembly is because of the electoral threshold. They've gotten quite big. They are clearly getting outside help, and their connections to paramilitary Bluish forces cannot be denied. And all of a sudden, the reformers are trying to decrease the electoral threshold so that the Bluish separatists can be legitimized the Assembly to achieve their aims of independence.
You think that's Mr. Richter's intention?
I suspect his intentions are grounded, but I wish the only issues with the Bluish terrorists in Rumberg.
Their reformers suggested changes would also bring the communists who are backed by United Cantona into the Assembly. Do you see the pattern yet? You're saying the reformists are working for foreign powers. Well, haven't you been briefed by your security team? Maybe you should suspect them as well.
We should take the necessary measures against communist and Bluish plots, as well as increasing our military budget against possible conflict with Rumberg.
And, of course, not fall into the traps of the reformists by listening to their demands. They are clearly plotting to weaken the president and the whole administration in order to exploit the situation.
Which brings us to some very important information that we have. It's definitely something you need to hear, and it can change absolutely everything. With all due respect, Mr. President, I think this is getting slightly ridiculous.
Please explain, Mr. Hawker.
The person in question is Mr. Friendsrich himself, the leader of the reformists. We have enough information to infer that he has ties with Arcasia. Arcasia is aggressively growing their influence around the world, and now with Mr. Richter coming up with these ridiculous demands for a new constitution amidst the chaotic period in Soldan. All the pieces seem to fit perfectly, and that is why the Supreme Court will be doing what it takes to stop these reforms and preserve the constitution. How would you know that Mr. Richter has ties to Arcasia?
Mr. Galad, we all know that he's been Arcasia many times, but it's been documented. But what would you think if he's been making hidden flights to the country? He was hiding his flights to Arcasia?
He was. He has been spotted in a hotel in Arcasia last year when they held a conference on economic development in volatile regions. Right around that time, he started to influence the masses into believing that our constitution is the reason for everything bad. His trip was not documented, nor was he an official guest at the conference. We believe that he had a meeting with President Walker behind closed doors. I also have a couple of more photos of him that were taken in Arcasia in different cities. One is from a couple months back. Again, none of it is documented. He also attended another event in Lesbia last week. The Arcasia Minister of Foreign Affairs was there too.
How did you find out about this?
Many Solists were already following his leads for quite some time, Mr. President. I cannot give away their identities, but I can give you the evidence.
He handed me a small file. It contained official documents from the storage border guard with highlighted dates that showed no trace of Friendsrichter's name. There were clear photos of him that were taken at the conference in Arcasia, as well as remarks by lesbian Arcasian citizens who claimed to have seen him with Arcasian businessmen around the same dates. There is also an official transcript of one of his speeches where he claimed to be in Benfi on the dates of the conference in Arcasia, where he was spotted. Lucian skimmed through the documents with skepticism, which slowly turned into surprise.
These seem to be real.
Of course, every year, Mr. Galan. They seem to suggest that our cause is by the reformists. The demands will only benefit our cause here. They want us to have a weaker administration when we face all those threats. This is clearly a plot against Solden. I bet Rumberg is part of the plan too. This cannot be a coincidence that they are weaponizing our minorities against us around the same time. Now you understand the reasons of our current stance, and also our suspicions about your advisors who clearly have not given you this vital information. Lucien gave him a sharp look. We appreciate the information, Mr. Hawker, but I advise against jumping to conclusions right away. We still need to check the information. There's not much to think or check. This is clearly an emergency. In such cases, the Constitution gives the President the right to use his emergency powers. If we work together, you can be sure that the Supreme Court will not block your declaration of emergency.
You want me to declare an emergency?
Of course, we cannot wait for the processes of the Assembly to take care of these issues. We must exercise presidential powers for a fast and effective solution.
Which means you might need to suspend parts of the Constitution to give more authority to our security forces to deal with these issues.
We must officially investigate Mr. Richter as well. You can devise a strong security degree if you base it on Articles 57 and 58, which gives the President the right to suspend parts of the Constitution to deal with national security threats. You can directly bypass the Assembly in such a situation. The only thing you need is the Supreme Court to allow the emergency to be declared, and you have a word on that. Sir, I think that's going a bit too far. We shouldn't escalate things so fast. Mr. President, why don't we talk in private? It's only the two of us. We can devise a plan together. I know how we can use the Constitution to our advantage. It would be more effective if Mr. Glad and Mr. Garage leave the room before we discuss it. Sir, I advise against it.
I'm sorry to say that we won't be cooperating, Mr. Hawker.
Even though you're aware of our national security threats.
You're making a big mistake, Mr. President. We would not allow you to succeed. Gentlemen, I think it's about time to end this meeting.
Well, thank you for having us, Mr. President. Have a good evening.
They both left the room without saying anything else.
That was not good. They clearly tried to threaten you.
We have to make sure our reforms pass the court.
Also, we'll be doing whatever it takes to damage you. We need to be careful. There are still many old guard sympathizers in our party. We can't let them divide us. And he will definitely try.
After a short evaluation of the situation in our hands, Lucien left me in the President's office. It was obvious that the old guards would be my main rivals in the near future. Fantastic. Alright. So, it looks like we have one more newspaper, and then that's the end of the churn. So let's check the paper out. The Lockhaven Times, Hawker in Maroon Palace. Chief Justice Orso Hawker has been spotted entering the Maroon Palace. Our sources are intrigued by the timing of this visit that is happening right after the increased conversations around so-called democratic reform. Historically, Mr. Hawker usually does not frequent the palace unless for official business, and this was certainly an unplanned visit. Clearly, there must be something he wants out of this. Our speculation is that this has something to do with the reforms. More to come on this later. Awesome sauce. Alright. Check out the next churn. Trials of Democracy. Fantastic. There's a save point. So, I feel like that's probably as good a spot as I need to go and call it for today. So, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see y'all next time.